Hello, hello, hello. Who is watching? Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Honest Conversations with Chin as a favor. Okay, we have started. There was a little glitch in connection there. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to another episode of Honest Conversations with Chin as a favor, where we talk about everything life, everything godliness, everything wholesome living. Here we talk about those things that are usually not mainstream topics of discussion. So you're very welcome. If you're on, I see that there are two people here. If you are on, please leave a comment, okay, so I can see you. I'm watching the comments now. You're very welcome. We have a very wonderful discussion to have today, and I'm very excited for it. So welcome again. Let us talk. Educate, thank you very much. Good evening. Good evening. I hope you had a wonderful day. So, today we will be talking about expectations. Why did I choose this topic? Hello, Lovett. Good evening. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, Godfrey. You are always here. Always here. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. If you're on, please keep commenting. I want to see your comments. I want to see those ones that are early comers. The late comers will come later, but let us give a shout out to the early comers. Welcome again to another episode of Honest Conversations with Chin as a favor. Today we have a wonderful topic. Let's talk expectations. Why you getting hurt and how to bring back your sanity, how to protect your sanity. I understand that we live in a very crazy world, and being mentally stable is something that is something of worth, something that is very, very valuable, and something that if you have an edge over the other people. I understand that. That is why I chose this topic, because a lot of people have these unrealistic expectations and they keep getting hurt. A lot of people just keep getting disappointed over and over and over again. And they keep asking, why is it not working? Why is it simply not working? Not knowing that it could be that their expectations are impossible or just too high to be accomplished or to be met. So today we'll be talking of expectations. The first thing that I have here is, what is an expectation? This is a conversation, all right? So I will not be doing all the talking and talking and talking. It's not a teaching or master class, it's a conversation. So what do you think is an expectation? If I come up to you and I ask you, what is an expectation? What would you say? What would be your response? What is an expectation? What is your own definition of expectation? Before I give you mine, tell me yours. What is your definition of expectation? Talk to me. Hello, Chibike. Thanks for tuning in. It's amazing to have you here. I'm waiting for your comments. What is your understanding of expectation? How do you define expectation? Okay, I believe you're still typing because the feedback is kind of a little bit slow. So I'll start with mine and you read yours as we go ahead. So I have about 6 explanations or definitions of expectations, and I'm going to read them out to you. The first definition that I have here is, an expectation is an event considered the most likely to happen. An event considered the most likely to happen. Okay, I have Godfrey's here. Godfrey says, expectation in my own term means that thing that you desire to get. Okay, fine. Who else has another definition of expectation? My second definition of expectation here is a strong belief that something will happen or be the case. A strong belief that something will happen or be the case. All right? The third one that I have here is believing that something should be a certain way. Believing that something should be a certain way. The fourth definition that I have is the belief that something will or should happen. The belief that something will or should happen. The fifth definition of expectation that I have here is a feeling or belief of how good, successful something or someone will be. A belief of how good, successful something or someone would be or should be. The sixth definition that I have here is the act or state of looking forward to something. The act or state of looking forward to something. Okay, I have Laura's definition here. She said, expectation is the feeling that something is about to happen. Okay, it's amazing the differing perspectives that we have on this. Godfrey says, expectation in my own time means that thing that you desire to get. Gloria says, expectation is the feeling that something is about to happen. Amazing. For the sake of this conversation, expectation is a very broad topic. We have different definitions and understandings of expectation, but for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to hold on to the third definition that I wrote down here, and that is believing that something should be a certain way. Believing that something should be a certain way. I have Victor's definition here. He says, people mistook expectation for wishes. Expectation should be more of hoping for something which you've been placed in process or acted upon. Okay, that's great. And hi, it's nice to have you here. Faith is here. Hello, sis. It's good to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. All right, so for the sake of this conversation, I'll limit my definition to just the third one that I wrote here. Believing that something should be a particular way or a certain way for several reasons that we're going to discuss here. All right. So I want to ask you a question. Can you remember a particular time when you were very, very disappointed? A particular time that you were terribly disappointed? Can you remember a time that you were really angry, or you were really sad, or you're really disappointed, or you felt let down? Can you remember a time like that? I believe every one of us has had times like that. I have lots of times like that. I have lots of times like that. If you can remember a time in your life when you felt really, really bad, for some reason, I want you to think of what happened. What made you that angry? What made you that disappointed? The most probable reason, the most likely answer or reason reason you were feeling so bad was because there was an unmet expectation. There was an unmet expectation, all right? So disappointments are unmet expectations. There are things that we hoped for that didn't happen. There are things that we were expecting that didn't happen. There were things that we were looking forward to that didn't happen, all right? That is disappointments. And disappointments and expectations are irrevocably intertwined. Okay? Disappointments, expectations, they are very, very much related. In fact, they are intertwined. You cannot even untangle them. You cannot take disappointments away from expectations because they are just together. All right. So the next thing that I have here is that there are three major kinds of expectations, according to me. Three major kinds of expectations. I haven't read this anywhere. This is from what I have experienced and from the research that I have done over the years. I have seen that there are three kinds of expectations. The first one is people's expectations of you. People's expectations of you. The second one is your expectations of yourself. And the third one is your expectations of others. So I start with people's expectations of you. Before I go ahead, because this is a conversation, I need to check the comments. Anya Vanessa says, therapy sessions. Thank you, Tinaza. Thank you for being here, Vanessa. I'm so happy to have you here. Godfrey says, yes, a whole lot of times that even forced me to have the belief of not expecting from anybody because I do not want to be disappointed. Okay. All right. You've had some experiences. This. Okay. So I'll start with the first kind of expectation that I have here, people's expectations of you. I don't really think that this is much of a problem because if you know who you are, if you understand your value, if you understand your worth, and you know where you are going, you don't bother so much about what people think of you. You don't bother so much about what anyone thinks. People's expectations of you can come in the form of how you're expected to talk, how you're expected to carry yourself, how you're expected to dress, how you're expected to behave, what you are expected to be. Let's say your parents' expectations of you. Let's say friends' expectations of you, what you are expected to be. So if you know who you are, if you know where you are headed, if you understand your place here, you understand the piece of the puzzle you are in this big whole, then people's expectations of you should not even be a bother. I'm not going to dwell so much on that. When you are authentic, when you are in your truest self, people's expectations of you will not matter, should not be your business, should not bother you. As long as you're not hurting anyone, as long as you're not sinning against God, as long as you're not going against your values, people's expectations of you do not matter. As long as those expectations that they have of you do not honor your values, do not honor your being and your personality, their expectations of you should not be a problem, right? That is settled. I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm going to dwell more on your expectations of people and your expectations of yourself. The expectations we place on people, on others, and the expectations we place on ourselves. Solomon, it's good to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. All right. So let's talk about your expectations of your expectations of others. Now, these others could be your friends, your parents, your relatives, your lover, let's say your significant other, your husband, your wife, or your fiance, your mentors, your role models. You have a certain amount of expectation, a certain level of expectations from them, right? So your parents, they are human beings, right? You expect them to talk to you a certain way. You expected them to train you in social school. Your friends were attending better school, but you expected your parents to train you in that same school that your other friends were going to. Your parents didn't have the money to send you there, right? And you're feeling resentful. You're feeling resentful that they didn't send you there. Maybe you're expecting your mom to cook a certain kind of food for you as a teenager, or you're expecting your friend to talk to you a certain way. You're expecting your friends to do some certain things. You're expecting your role models to do some certain things. You're expecting your role models to have a certain carriage, a certain demeanor, a certain level of integrity, right? Your role models, your mentors. You have all these expectations from people. You're expecting all these people to behave a certain way, to talk to you a certain way, to treat you a certain way. But the question is, why? Why should they treat you a certain way? Why should you be talked to like this? Do you understand? Why should you be talked to like this? Now, let's talk about your expectations of yourself, because this is also very important before I go into why. All right. Now, your expectations of yourself could be where you want to get to, what your plans for your life is. All right. It could be something like setting a personal goal for yourself, the height you want to attain. The question still remains the same. Why do you want to attain those heights? Why are you setting these kinds of goals for yourself? That is the question. And our expectations come from three sources. The first one is from our imaginations. The second one is from the people around us. And the third one is from our past. So when you expect anything from anyone or from yourself, Ask yourself, where is this expectation coming from? What is the basis of this expectation? And this is where self-awareness comes in. This is where mindfulness comes in. You don't just live like every other person and you expect a different result or to have a different life than every other person. No. You have to know who you are. You have to be very self-aware. All right? So your expectations come from three sources. From the people around you, from your imaginations, and from your past. Now let's talk about your imaginations. Your imaginations, you have this perfect picture of your future, of a perfect spouse, a perfect home, a perfect body, and all that. They are all in your head. You are thinking these things, you're expecting, you're hoping that these things will be this way. Remember the definition I'm working with. Believing that something should be a certain way. All right? Believing that something should be a certain way. So you have these imaginations in your head. You are thinking in different ways. You are thinking in a different realm. You are painting a perfect picture. You are painting a perfect picture of a distorted painting. You are painting a perfect picture of a distorted painting. Take that again. You are painting a perfect picture of a distorted painting. So your imagination is the perfect picture, but the distorted painting is the reality. So why do expectations hurt? Expectations hurt when your expectations exceed reality. When what you think, when what you're imagining, when your imaginations are not matched with reality. All right? So when you are expect people to behave a certain way, this is how I wrote it here. You are betting on people's realities to match your imaginations. You are betting on people's reality to match your imaginations, and that is very, very unfair. Very, very unfair. When what you have planned in your head, when you've created this picture in your head, and you're expecting people whose realities, who are just living their realities, to match the perfect picture you painted in your head. Tell me why you will not keep getting hurt. Tell me why you will not keep getting disappointed. Tell me why. Just tell me why you will not keep getting disappointed and just keep feeling broken and all that people are not able to live up to your expectations. People are not able to behave. Oh, you're supposed to behave this certain way. Why should I behave that certain way? Why? Could it be that, now I'm talking about the other source of expectation, the past. Could it be that there are people in your past, or there was someone in your past that behaved this certain way to you, and so you're expecting me to behave that same way to you? Is that realistic? Is that fair to me? Yeah, to you it could be okay. I should be, to you, I'm expected to behave this way because it is what you are used to. But is it a reality that I'm also used to? Do you understand? Is your imagination a reality that the other person is used to? The people that you're expecting things from, your imagination, is it what they are used to? Is it a reality that they are used to? Is it their reality at all? So it is very, very unfair for you to think, for you to want people to match your imaginations. Very, very unfair. In the same way you don't want people to tell you how to dress, in the same way you want to be authentic, that is the same way you should want others to be authentic. The same way you have different experiences, that is the same way people have different experiences. And these things in our lives, these pasts that we have in our lives, that we have experienced, all shape our mentality and shape the realities that we live in. So it is very, very bad, unwise, inconsiderate, and unfair to expect me to match your imaginary reality. So while you are thinking how I should behave, or how things should be, or how your relationship should be, please ask yourself, is it a reality that this other person is used to? Check where your expectation is coming from. Is it coming from reality or is it coming from your imaginations? Your expectations, are they coming from reality or are they coming from the media? So let's say you want me to be slim, you want me to be slender and all that. Why are you expecting me to be slender? Why are you expecting me to have a certain kind of look? Is it because that is how you have seen it in the media? Is it because that is how people have done it in your past, where you're coming from? I'm not used to that reality. I didn't have that experience. So I have a different experience and I'm living a different reality. Does it make sense to you? Let me read your comments. Solomon says, people around you, your imagination and your past form the basis of your expectations. Thank you. Exactly. And he says, it's quite unfair to bet on people's reality to match your imaginations. Thank you. And he says, sometimes we try to frame our imagination based on the reality of others, not minding if they are used to it or not. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So when you are thinking these things in your mind, it is very, very important to know where your expectations are coming from. This will determine whether they will be met or not to a very large extent, to a very large degree. I'm talking of your expectations of other people. When you think, is it coming from my imaginations? My imaginations now, what is the basis of my imagination? Is it real? My imaginations, are they real? Are they real? If they are not, please drop that expectation because you are definitely going to get hurt. Definitely, it is certain that you will get hurt. Because when you don't do that, you are putting your mental health at risk. You are putting your mental health at risk. You're just intentionally making yourself emotionally unstable. And your mind is not thanking you for that, you know. So how do you deal with expectations? How do you deal with expectations? Tell me, how do you deal with expectations? The first thing that I wrote here is that you have to give room to people's humanness. Give room to humanness. What do I mean by this? You are in the world. You're a human being. And that other person you're expecting something from or expecting a certain behavior from is a human being too. Where am I going with this? Utopia does not exist. And what is utopia? An imaginary city that is perfect. It does not exist. Human beings are flawed naturally. Human beings are flawed naturally. We have our tendencies. You have to give room to individual differences. Give room to the knowledge. Even if your ex-person promised you something, you have to give room to the possibility that this might not come. Give room to uncertainties. Give room to people's humanness. Give room to people's flaws. When you're expecting anything, give room to people's humanness. Give room to people's give room to individual differences and give room to uncertainties. When you don't, you're just creating a perfect picture. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. When you don't, you're just creating a perfect picture, an absolute picture. You're just creating an ideal picture that does not exist. Even gases, gases that are non-living things. We have ideal gases and we have what? Real gases. But ideal to get an ideal state for gases is almost impossible. It's almost impossible. So if it is not possible to get an ideal state for gases that are non-humans, how then do you expect an absolute picture or an absolute behavior from humans. How exactly do you do that? I mean, how do you do that? I want to learn from you. How do you do that? If you are not perfect in yourself, if you are not perfect in character, in behavior, in conduct, why don't you extend that courtesy to others? Why don't you extend that courtesy to other fellow human beings? So it is very, very unfair, very, very unwise not to extend the same courtesy you should extend to yourself to others on the basis of their humanness, because you will always fail. You will always have times where you fall short on your expectations, and you're not giving room for others to fail too. Even spouse, you have to expect that your spouse is a human being and can hurt you. When you already have this expectation, you will not be surprised. So how do you ensure that you are not surprised when things happen and you are also surprised when things don't happen? How do you be in that state where you are surprised and where you are not surprised? When you don't expect much, when you stop expecting so much. There's something that I do that has made me to really, really live a happy life. I don't expect things from people. I don't expect, but I give a lot. I give a lot. I give so much to the point that any money that I see in my account, I don't take it as mine. I think that this money belongs to people. So I give a lot. I extend kindness every chance I get. But I don't expect any in return. It has made me to live a wholesome life, believe me. I don't expect. If I give anybody money, I'm not expecting you to say thank you. I'm just giving you on the basis of you need this, and I am in the position to give it to you. You have a need, and I'm in the position to solve that need. And so I'm doing it. I don't expect so much. And when I am with friends, in my relationships, I don't expect people to do anything for me. That is why I don't take things for granted. On my birthday, someone posted me on his status, and I was almost crying because even though this person and I have talked, and it is expected that he would post my picture, when he did, you would wonder if something was wrong with me, because I was like, I wasn't expecting you to do this. And you would say something as little as a birthday post or on his story. Yes, something as little as that, because I wasn't even expecting that little. It has made me not to take life for granted. It has made me not to take anything that anyone does for me for granted. It has made me not to take anything that comes to me for granted. I don't expect so much. I don't expect so much in my dealings with people. And it's not about them, it's about me, my sanity. It is very, very important for me. The time that I started, the period that I decided that I wasn't going to be so expectant of people, that's the day I started living for real. For real. So I give room to humanness. I give room to natural flaws of human. I cannot be in a relationship and I don't know that my partner would break my trust, that I will never be betrayed. I cannot trust anybody 100%. And that is not to say that I have trust issues. No, I'm only protecting my sanity. The only person I trust 100% is God. He is the only one that I trust 100%. Every other human, I assume that they have the tendency to betray me. We don't pray for betrayals, but in a case, in a situation where it happens, I'm not expecting that they will betray me, but I gave room for that. I gave room in my mind for if it happens. So I'm not surprised that it happened. I'm dealing with a human being. You say this word, how could you do this to me? How could he not? How could she not? dealing with human beings, for crying out loud. They are not flawless. They'll always mess up. They'll always mess up. When we put our trust so much in people that when they exhibit even the slightest human characteristic, we start crying foul. You broke my heart. You did this. You did that. How could you? How, I hate that word. How could you? Because it's coming from a place of selfishness and unnecessary high expectation. When you understand that humans will always be humans, when you understand that humans will always fail, you will be more protected. You cannot give you room for people to keep misbehaving. No. If a relationship becomes toxic, it's important that you walk away. But for your sanity, you have to give room for human weaknesses. You have to give room for uncertainties. You have to give room for when things don't go as you have expected. All right? It will help you to stay calm in a situation that others would have ordinarily just lost their minds. So this is about your mental health. This is about your sanity, protecting your sanity in an insane world. Just understand that you are in a crazy world. So your inner peace is important. The second thing that I wrote here is create a balance. Create a balance. El Dorado does not exist. El Dorado does not exist at all. Let me go through your comments a little bit before we continue. What do I have here? Okay, Solomon says, times we try to frame our imaginations based on the reality of others. Okay, I've already talked about this. And it says our expectations should come from reality and not necessarily our imaginations. That's right. Anya Vanessa says, so we should not expect our kids to meet or match our expectations. Exactly. Let's talk about kids a little bit. Thank you for bringing it up, Vanessa. Kids will always be kids. Babies will always be babies. This is not to condone truancy. This is not to condone malbehavior, right? But this to make you understand that children have immature brains. Children have immature brains. And it is very unfair. I like using that word unfair so that you understand the gravity of what you're doing. It is very, very unfair for you as a parent to expect your child who is just 3 years old to behave like a 10-year-old, to have the conduct of a 10-year-old. I have a 3-year-old son, and even though he doesn't act 3 years old, the way he acts so mature, when we sometimes forget that this guy is little. This guy is just came out of my tummy a few years ago. And so there are some behaviors he would exhibit, and I'll get angry. I wouldn't remember easily that this baby is a baby. This boy is still a child. His brain is still developing. At this age, I shouldn't expect him to behave a certain way. At this age, I should just let him behave the way his brain is, the way he knows best. I can only control him. I can only keep him from harm. But this boy is a child. Your children, even if they are adults, even if they are teenagers, they are individuals. They are human beings. They will not always have the perfect character or behavior or the perfect conduct that you would want, that you have wanted. You don't always have the perfect character that your parents had always wanted. Do you? You don't always have the perfect character or behavior that your spouse would want. Do you? So why do we expect others to meet up to our expectations? Why? It's crazy. It doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't make sense. Individual difference is very, very important. Remember, our experiences shape our realities. Your experiences shaped your imagination, shaped what you are used to thinking. It shaped what reality you are living in right now. That is the same way other people's experiences shape what they are used to thinking and what they are living out. So don't be so quick to want to change someone's reality. They are not robots, they are human beings. They have emotions, they have these experiences that make them who they are. That is why we are unique. Your experiences are one of the things that make you unique. And you should hold on to it. Hold on to it. Solomon says, your mental health might be at high risk when your imaginations become the basis for your expectation of others. That is very true. That is very true, because you're not living in reality. You are not living in reality. You are just building castle in the air. You all keep getting hurt. You always keep being mentally unstable. You're always shaky. You're happy this moment, the next moment you are already sad because someone did not up to your expectation. Do you want to continue being like that? Or can you now start living in the understanding of the people around you having different experiences and you just being able to create a balance between reality and your imagination? That is the third point we're going to talk about. All right. Rachel says humans have limitations. Yes, we all have limitations. You have limitations. I have limitations. I don't expect you to always have a perfect character. Basically, says, I think we all should try to be rational when it comes to expectations and also try to create room to handle uncertainty rather than being religious and believe that everything will be perfect. Perfect does not exist in my dictionary. It doesn't. For those people who say that you're a perfectionist, I'm trying to not be. I would say that I'm thorough. I'm a very thorough person, but perfect? I'm not a perfectionist. That religious understanding, oh, because you're a Christian, you're not expected to. In fact, because you're a Christian, you are expected to have a perfect behavior. It is only in heaven that we have perfect people, though. Only in heaven. As long as you're still on earth, even if you are working with the bishop, give room for human tendencies. It will save you a lot of mental stress, believe me. A lot. You're working with a GO, your pastor, your mentor that seems infallible. They are human beings and they will always possibly fail. Let me not say always fail. Give room for the possibility that they could fail so that if it happens, you're not surprised. You pass quickly. All right? You pass quickly because they are not gods. Solomon says man was created to exist as immortal. Every human being exists some degree of flaws, inadequacies. When you build your expectation of others, you shouldn't hesitate to give a room for their weaknesses. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Solomon. Lafric TV says, chances are accurate and excellent that we put our mental health at dangerous risk when our imaginations or expectation is based on people's reactions or what they feel about us. We matter not them. People's expectations don't matter. I don't. Someone says I'm too proud. It's not pride. It is self-awareness. It is being mindful. It is being present. It is being aware of who I am. It's being aware of my journey and not allowing what they expect me to be to affect me. I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I'm a human being. I'm human. And I can fail at any point. So don't have that perfect expectation, that perfect picture of Chinaza fail. Oh, she's infallible. I can fail. I'm not praying to, I don't hope to, but it is possible. Anything is possible. And when you understand this, you just save yourself a lot of mental stress. It's that simple. It's that simple. Someone says the easiest way to get hurt is by always expecting so much from people. Thank you. You can keep your sanity in check by not doing so. Okay, you cannot keep your sanity in check by doing so. That is true. That is true. When you keep having very high expectations of people, they will not meet. They will not meet your expectations. They will not meet your imaginations. So why bother? Why bother? The third point we're going to talk about is very, very important, okay? So that you don't feel like it's not good to expect anything at all. But when we get there, you will understand better, okay? Vanessa says value packed. I'm glad you're getting value from here. Thank you for sticking by. Solomon says humans by default will always exhibit some degree of imperfections. Absolutely. Vanessa says God the Father expects from us, but his mercy covers our flaws. Thank you. I was discussing with someone some days ago, and she feels like she has done so many terrible things that God cannot forgive her again. And I told her, and I'll ask you that same question. If God did not understand our human frailty, the fact that we can always fail, that there is a tendency that we will fail, why did he not make salvation a one-time thing? Like, why did he not make forgiveness a one-time thing? Not salvation. Why did he not make forgiveness a one-time thing? Why? If God expected us to be perfect in character, just because we are born again, you are perfect in character, you are not expected to sin. You're not expected, I'm not saying you should sin. You're not expected to fall again. I have saved you this once, I'm not saving you again. I have forgiven you this once, I'm not forgiving you again. You have exhausted your forgiveness bank. It's one for one person. It is once. I don't forgive twice. I don't make room for such. If God didn't understand our frailty, we wouldn't have made forgiveness a recurring thing. He wouldn't have made forgiveness a recurring thing. That is how I look at it. But human beings, we keep scores. Oh, I forgive you this time. If you do it again, I will not forgive you again. So what happened? Why? That was when the disciples asked Jesus, how many times will my brother offend me and I will not forgive? He said 70 times 7. In a day. Who will offend you 70 times 7 in a day? Who? Nobody. Even if I offend you every minute, I've not even exhausted that. So make room for human frailty. Make room for human flaws. Right? Someone says children have their different individualities. It's wrong for a parent to compare a child who made a mistake with another who is seen as the perfect example. That child will likely go into depression. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think it's time for parents to be more mindful and be more mindful human beings. Because when you're a mindful person, you'll be a mindful parent. When you're mindful with yourself, with your surrounding, with your environment, you'll be mindful with the people around you, children inclusive. You'll understand that there are differences. Gone are those days when our parents will ask us, the person look first, does he have 2 heads? No, mommy, the person does not have 2 heads, but I'm not as bright as that other person. I'm trying. Possibly I don't even have interest in maths, but I have interest in arts. I'm sure there is some piece that I'm very good at that this person is not good at. So shall we stop that comparison? Parents, let's stop that comparison. Whoever is a parent here, it's time to start doing better. Your parents did not do so well. You know better now. You should start doing better. Principal says expectations have caused more harm than good in this generation. I think contentment helps us control our high expectations. Yes, being content is very, very important. That is where the third point I have here comes to play. Okay? and that is create room for balance. Create a balance. Let there be a meeting place for your expectations and reality. Let your expectations and your reality have a meeting point. Don't just live in your world of fantasies and expectations and perfect pictures, and then you don't bring reality to meet your expectation. You don't create a meeting point for your reality and your expectations and your imaginations. It is very, very wrong not to expect, because then we have nothing to be hopeful for, right? We don't live for anything, we just live as life comes and goes. That is not what we are called to do. That is not the kind of life I want you to live. You are supposed to expect, but you have to create a balance. So let's say you want to be a billionaire in the next 5 years. You want to be a billionaire in dollars in the next 5 years. You are already imagining it in your head. $5 billion in the next 5 years. And you look at your reality. You live in a jebule. You live in a jebule, and you're dreaming of having $5 billion in the next 5 years. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's more impossible than it is possible. So you have to create a balance. You want to be rich, eh? Good. Shall we start with millions first before we go to billions of dollars? Shall we start with millions? And then when you can create a balance is when you create a workable strategy. When you put plans in place to achieve what you've already planned. Now, this is when I talk about your expectations of you. Remember, there are three kinds of expectations: the expectations of people of you, your expectations of others, and your expectation of yourself. So you have to learn to create a balance between what you want and what is. And that balance comes from putting workable strategies in place. Now, when you plan, when you get to your drawing board and you see that what I have here will not get me $5 billion in 5 years, you work with what you have. You bring down your imagination to something that is workable. Because the reason people get disappointed is because they just think so highly of themselves without looking at what they're capable of doing. So they start a work, they start a project, and they're not able to finish it. They're not even able to go halfway, and it crashes. So you cannot say that you want to create a webinar. You want to have a paid webinar where people have to pay you 50,000, and you're not even an expert. You're not even a mid-professional in your niche, and you want to create a course or a webinar where people will pay you 50,000 for 1 day's workshop. How now? You just get disappointed if you launch that course or that webinar or that project because your expectations don't meet your reality. Does it make sense? Your expectation does not meet your reality. So make sure that what you are expecting, what you have in your mind, is something that is workable, something that is realistic. This is a way to protect your sanity, a way to just keep yourself from running mad. All right? Another thing that I have here is to stay true to yourself. Stay true to yourself. This is very, very important when we talk about expectations of you. Solomon says it is wrong to be without expectations, but then creating a balance between expectations and imagination is very important. Yes. It's like saying you don't dream. You don't dream dreams. You have to dream. You have to dream wild dreams. You have to dream big dreams. There's a song that says, "I got big dreams. Big dreams calling me." It's good to have big dreams, but you got to make them realistic. You got to be sure that you have what it takes to achieve this, and you're willing to commit to achieving those things that you've already planned for yourself. Dreams don't just happen, expectations don't just become realities. It is when you find a balance and you get workable, you build a structure around your expectations to ensure that they work, and you commit to it. There's no way they will not come to pass as long as they are realistic enough. Though realistic in this sense does not mean bringing down the expectations to just your level. Mm-mm. You have to be bold enough to dream. You have to be bold enough to set mad goals for yourself and be committed enough to following them. All right? Stay true to yourself. Stay true to yourself. Stay true to yourself. What you're expecting of yourself, is it something that is not you? If it is not you, if it's not something that you find that you are passionate about, if it's not something that is intrinsically you, if your idea, if your expectations and your imaginations are not you, there's every chance that you will get disappointed in the end because you may not be able to achieve it. Why? Because you don't have what it takes to achieve it. The next one that I have here is about your expectations of other people. Communicate and communicate. Communicate and communicate. Let's say you are in a romantic relationship. Let's say you're married or you have a fiance, you're courting, and you planned this wonderful wedding, or you planned this wonderful date night with your spouse. You want to surprise your spouse. You know that this is their favorite restaurant, so this is where I'm taking her to, or this is where I'm taking him to. So in your mind, you're already expecting a certain level of excitement. You're already expecting a certain level of response, a particular kind of response from your spouse, because you know that is their restaurant, their favorite restaurant. It is natural if they behave like that, if they meet up to your expectation. But if they don't, then there could be a problem somewhere. Don't get mad. Oh, how could I have taken you to this restaurant and you're not happy that I took you there? The problem might not be the restaurant. The problem might not be that they are not happy to go to their favorite restaurant. The problem might be that there is a person issue, that there's an issue, a pending issue that is yet to be resolved. And this is usually true with women. If we feel that there's something that is left undone, we don't really find anything romantic. If we feel that you didn't help us to take care of the kids or to wash the dishes and we feel tired, when you give us gifts or anything external, we don't really appreciate it that much. Not like we don't want it or we don't like it, but it would have made a lot more sense if you had helped us to work things out in the background so that we can be in our best mental state to be present in that moment with you. And when you expect something from someone, it's important that you tell them. No one is in your mind. No one is in your imaginations. Nobody is thinking your thoughts for you. I'm not God. Your partner is not God. Your friend is not God. So it's your birthday, and okay, your birthday is approaching, and you do not tell your friends that you would appreciate a certain kind of gift, or you expect it, or you want to go to a relaxing, waiting for them to take you to that place that you have in your mind. There's no way they will know that that's where you want to go. They might be planning something different. So to them, their reality is these things that they have to give you. But you already have a different thing in mind. So you see, your expectation will not be met because you didn't communicate it. Communication is key. Communication is key in your relationship with others. Communication is key for your mental health to be stable. And to be in a good. So stop expecting so highly of others. Stop expecting so much from people. They will not always meet up. They will not always meet up. So let me read your comments again. Someone says, when your mental framework doesn't align with the present reality, disappointment is inevitable. It's very, very obvious. One hour. I want to spend more than 1 hour here. So if you have any more questions to ask or any contribution, I'll be happy to read here. Do you find value here? Sorry about that. The call keeps coming in. Did you find this impactful? Did you find this valuable? I have 8 people watching. If you found this session just Solomon says communicating your expectations and how it wasn't met will save you a lot of trouble. But don't be too quick to pass judgment on others. Thank you. Thank you. Lucky James, where have you been? Where have you been? He says, blessed is he who expects nothing, for he shall never be disappointed. That sounds like what I would say. Okay, the great quote of Alexander Pope. Okay. Blessed is he who expects nothing, for he shall never be disappointed. Thank you very much. Solomon says, thank you so much, Chinaza. This was impactful and valuable. I'm glad you found it so. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have just a few more seconds to go. Thank you everyone for joining this session. I had amazing time with you all. And next Thursday, we have another important discussion coming up. And I hope to see you here. All right. Thank you and have a wonderful night rest.